Have you ever wondered why you feel tired after lunch, even when you didn't eat that much? Or why that stubborn belly fat just won't go away, no matter how hard you try? Maybe it's the brain fog. You sit at your desk, but your mind feels like it's wading through mud. These aren't just random annoyances. They're early warning signs of something much deeper. A hidden epidemic running through millions of lives. At the center of it all, blood sugar spikes, insulin resistance, gut imbalances, fatty liver, and even coronary artery disease. Here's the truth, they're all connected. And most people don't realize the chain reaction until it's too late. One little spike after breakfast, another after lunch, and slowly, day after day, your body builds up resistance. Insulin stops working like it should. Your liver stores fat it shouldn't. Your gut bacteria go out of balance. And over time, this silent storm reaches your arteries and heart. But here's the good news, you can fix it. Not with extreme diets or endless supplements, but with smart food choices, a few simple hacks, and the natural power of fasting. Stay with me until the end, and I'll show you how small, daily decisions can reverse years of hidden damage and give you back steady energy, a clearer mind, and a healthier future. Imagine this, you grab a bagel for breakfast, maybe wash it down with orange juice. Within minutes, your blood sugar rises like a rocket. Your body sees that surge and quickly calls in insulin, the hormone that acts like a key. Insulin's job is to unlock your cells and let that sugar in, giving you the energy to think, move, and live. But here's the problem. When blood sugar keeps spiking over and over, day after day, those cells begin to tune out the signal. It's like listening to a fire alarm that never stops. Eventually, you stop paying attention. That's what insulin resistance is. Your cells stop listening, and your blood sugar stays higher than it should. When this happens, the body goes into damage control mode. High blood sugar feels toxic, so insulin pushes harder and harder to force sugar into storage. Where does it go? Straight into fat cells. This is why many people gain weight around their midsection, even when they don't feel like they're overeating. The body isn't being fueled properly. It's storing instead of burning. At the same time, because the sugar isn't reaching the cells efficiently, you feel tired, foggy, and hungry again just a couple of hours after eating. That's why you crave a muffin at 10 a.m. or an energy drink at 3 p.m. The roller coaster repeats. Every spike doesn't just make you sleepy, it creates a ripple effect across your metabolism. High insulin blocks fat burning, so your body struggles to tap into stored energy. That's why you may feel like you're always on low battery even if you just ate. Over time, this constant on-off sugar surge wears out your pancreas, overloads your liver, and stresses your heart. What started as a simple bagel or soda becomes a slow, hidden push toward fatigue, weight gain, fatty liver, and even prediabetes. Here's the part most people miss: insulin resistance doesn't happen overnight. It builds silently, often years before your doctor says anything about high blood sugar. You can look perfectly healthy on the outside, but inside your cells are whispering, and we can't take in more sugar. This explains why people in their 30s or 40s start to notice stubborn belly fat, unpredictable mood swings, or the dreaded afternoon slump. They're not just getting older, their cells are becoming resistant. But here's the good news. The same way insulin resistance builds slowly, it can be reversed with consistent small changes. When you flatten the spikes, eating protein before carbs, adding fiber, avoiding sugary drinks, insulin doesn't have to scream at your cells anymore. It can whisper and your cells respond. Fasting takes this further. When you give your body a break from constant food intake, insulin levels drop naturally, allowing your cells to reset and become sensitive again. This is when fat burning finally switches back on, cravings calm down, and energy feels steady throughout the day. Think about it like this: your body is a smartphone. Blood sugar is the battery, insulin is the charger, and your cells are the phone itself. In a healthy system, the charger delivers just the right amount of power, and your phone runs smoothly. But if the charger keeps pushing too much power, the phone overheats and stops charging properly. That's insulin resistance. The fix isn't to get a new phone, it's to treat the charger and the battery with care. That's exactly what food timing, smart meal combinations, and fasting do. They restore balance. Many people don't realize their daily symptoms are linked to this hidden imbalance. Feeling tired an hour after a meal, getting irritable when you skip a snack, needing caffeine to get through the day. These are all insulin resistance symptoms long before the blood tests show trouble. When you start to address it, the difference is dramatic: stable energy, fewer cravings, easier weight loss, and clearer thinking. What's exciting is that you don't need a radical overhaul to see results. Even small shifts can flatten blood sugar spikes. A handful of veggies before pasta, a little protein in the morning, a walk after dinner, a simple fasting window. Each step teaches your cells to listen to insulin again. And as insulin sensitivity improves, the whole system calms down. Your liver stores less fat, your heart faces less stress, your brain gets a steady fuel supply, and your energy finally feels reliable. The choice is in your hands every single day. Do you want to keep riding the blood sugar roller coaster, up and down, spike after crash? Or do you want to flatten the ride, steady the energy, and let your body heal itself? The science is clear. When you stabilize blood sugar, you repair far more than your metabolism. You protect your future health. Have you noticed those mid-morning or mid-afternoon sugar crashes? What's your experience with energy dips after meals? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how your body reacts. Picture your gut as a busy city with trillions of workers, the bacteria that live inside you. These microbes aren't just passengers in your body. They're active players, constantly influencing how you digest food, how your blood sugar responds to meals, and even how hungry or satisfied you feel. Scientists now call the gut microbiome the hidden control center of metabolism. When it's balanced, blood sugar rises gently and falls smoothly. When it's out of balance, every meal becomes a trigger for spikes, crashes, and cravings. Here's how it works. The good bacteria in your gut help break down fiber, releasing short-chain fatty acids that calm inflammation and improve insulin sensitivity. They act like a buffer, keeping sugar from flooding your bloodstream too quickly. But when your gut is taken over by harmful bacteria, a state called dysbiosis, the system malfunctions. Instead of keeping things stable, your gut leaks inflammation into your bloodstream, making your cells even more resistant to insulin. It's like having construction workers who sabotage the project instead of building it. The result is more sugar floating around in your blood, more cravings, and more fat storage. If you've ever wondered why you can't stop reaching for sweets, even when you know better, your gut might be the reason. Dysbiosis doesn't just mess with blood sugar control, it actually changes your brain chemistry, releasing signals that drive cravings for fast digesting carbs. This is why people with poor gut health often feel trapped in a cycle. Sugar feeds the bad bacteria demand more sugar, and insulin resistance gets worse. The exciting part is that your gut isn't fixed in stone. It's constantly changing, and you can reshape it with what you eat. Every time you feed your body fiber, from vegetables, legumes, whole grains, you're giving your good bacteria the fuel they need to thrive. They grow stronger, outnumbering the bad guys, and in return, they help smooth your blood sugar after meals. Think of fiber as a prebiotic fertilizer, planting a healthy foundation inside your gut. Without it, the harmful bacteria dominate and your metabolism pays the price. Fermented foods take it a step further. Yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, these foods bring in reinforcements, live bacteria that join your gut army and start helping right away. Studies show that people who eat fermented foods regularly have better insulin sensitivity, lower inflammation, and steadier blood sugar. It's like importing skilled workers to your city who immediately improve traffic flow. Your blood sugar spikes less, your cravings settle down, and your energy feels more stable. And then there's fasting, a tool that doesn't just rest your digestive system, but also resets your microbiome. When you give your gut a break from constant eating, harmful bacteria that thrive on sugar lose their grip. Meanwhile, the good bacteria that love fiber and thrive in balance get stronger. Fasting also helps repair the gut lining, the barrier that keeps harmful toxins from leaking into your bloodstream. A healthier gut lining means less inflammation, which means your cells can finally hear insulin's signal more clearly. This hidden link between gut health and metabolism explains why so many people feel stuck when they only focus on calories. You can eat less, but if your gut is imbalanced, your cravings don't go away, your energy still crashes and fat burning stays locked. On the other hand, when you repair your microbiome, even small dietary shifts lead to noticeable changes. You feel full on less food, your sugar cravings fade, and your blood sugar curve begins to flatten naturally. The gut also influences hormones beyond insulin. A balanced microbiome supports GLP-1, a hormone that slows digestion and helps you feel satisfied longer. This is the same hormone that new weight loss medications are designed to mimic. But here's the secret: you don't need an injection to activate GLP-1. Your gut can do it for you if you feed it the right foods. A high-fiber meal with some fermented foods can trigger this natural appetite control, reducing the urge to snack and making fasting easier. Another overlooked piece is how gut health interacts with stress and sleep. An imbalanced gut microbiome communicates stress signals to the brain, raising cortisol, which in turn raises blood sugar. Poor sleep also disrupts your gut bacteria, creating more cravings and weaker blood sugar control the next day. This feedback loop explains why people who sleep poorly or live under chronic stress often struggle with weight and energy despite trying to eat well. Repairing the gut is like hitting the reset button, breaking this vicious cycle. What's empowering is that changes show up quickly. Within a few days of increasing fiber and adding fermented foods, many people report fewer cravings and steadier energy. Within weeks, fasting feels easier, digestion improves, and brain fog lifts. Over time, your microbiome reshapes itself into a healthier ecosystem, and the results ripple outward. Your liver handles sugar more efficiently, your heart faces less strain, and your metabolism finally feels like it's working with you instead of against you. Your gut truly is the hidden control center. If you want balanced blood sugar and freedom from cravings, you can't ignore it. The right foods and fasting patterns don't just feed you. They feed your bacteria, and in return, those bacteria decide how your body handles sugar, fat, and energy. Do you take probiotics or focus on fiber? What's worked for you in improving gut health and metabolism? Share your experience below. It might help someone else on their journey. Most people don't think about their liver until something goes wrong, yet it's one of the busiest organs in the body. It filters toxins, manages nutrients, and plays a central role in controlling blood sugar. But here's the hidden danger of the modern diet. Loaded with refined carbs, sugary drinks, and processed foods, is quietly overloading the liver with fat. This condition, known as fatty liver, is one of the silent engines driving insulin resistance and metabolic disease. Every time you eat sugar or refined carbs, your blood sugar spikes and insulin rises. Insulin signals the liver to store that excess sugar as glycogen for later use. That's normal and healthy in small amounts. But when glycogen stores are full, The liver has no choice but to convert extra sugar into fat. This process, called de novo lipogenesis, was once rare in human history. Today, with constant snacking, sugary beverages, and refined flours, it's happening around the clock. Slowly, fat begins to accumulate inside liver cells. At first, you don't feel it. There's no pain, no obvious symptom. But over time, this buildup makes the liver sluggish. Instead of processing nutrients efficiently, it starts leaking fat and inflammatory molecules into the bloodstream. This fat contributes to high cholesterol and triglycerides, while the inflammation worsens insulin resistance throughout the body. Your pancreas has to pump out more insulin just to keep blood sugar under control, and your cells stop listening even more. It's a vicious cycle. Sugar makes fat in the liver. The fat worsens insulin resistance. Insulin resistance raises blood sugar, and the liver makes even more fat. What makes fatty liver especially dangerous is that it sets off a domino effect. When your liver is clogged with fat, it can't regulate glucose properly. That means your fasting blood sugar creeps up even when you haven't eaten. People often notice that their morning blood sugar is higher than expected, a sign that the liver is dumping glucose into the bloodstream overnight. At the same time, cholesterol levels rise and the risk of heart disease climbs. This is why fatty liver isn't just about the liver. It's about your entire metabolic system being thrown out of balance. The good news is that fatty liver is reversible. Unlike other chronic conditions, the liver has an incredible ability to heal itself if given the right conditions. The most effective way to empty a fatty liver is to stop overloading it with sugar and refined carbs. When you lower your intake of processed foods and switch to whole foods, lean proteins, healthy fats, and plenty of vegetables, you cut off the liver's constant supply of raw material for fat production. Pair that with intermittent fasting and the results are even more powerful. During fasting windows, insulin drops, and your body is forced to tap into stored fat for energy. The liver begins to burn through its fat reserves, gradually clearing out the buildup that's been driving resistance. Low-carb meals are another tool that directly benefit the liver. By reducing the amount of glucose coming in, you reduce the demand on insulin and lower the pressure on the liver to store fat. Studies show that people who follow a low-carb or ketogenic diet often see significant improvements in fatty liver markers, insulin sensitivity, and blood lipid levels. Even a moderate approach, simply replacing refined carbs with whole grains and sugary drinks with water, can make a difference in reducing fat storage inside the liver. Lifestyle habits amplify the repair process. Daily movement, even something as simple as walking after meals, helps the liver process glucose more effectively. Adequate sleep lowers stress hormones that otherwise worsen insulin resistance. Reducing alcohol intake is also critical because alcohol compounds the burden on the liver, accelerating fat buildup and inflammation. When you combine these changes, smarter eating, fasting, movement, and rest, the liver doesn't just stop accumulating fat, it actively begins to repair itself. Think of the liver like a storage closet. Over the years, it gets packed with boxes you don't need until there's no space left to function. Each time you eat refined sugar, you're tossing another box into that closet. Eventually, you can't find what you need, and the clutter spills into the rest of the house. Reversing fatty liver is like cleaning out that closet. You stop bringing in unnecessary boxes, give yourself time to clear the old ones, and suddenly everything in the house works better. Blood sugar stabilizes, energy returns, cravings ease, and the risk of diabetes and heart disease drops. The real danger of ignoring fatty liver is that it often progresses without warning. By the time blood tests or scans reveal the problem, insulin resistance is usually already advanced. But the hopeful message is that change can start immediately. Every meal is a chance to either add to the clutter or help clear it out. With consistent small shifts, more fiber, fewer refined carbs, strategic fasting, the liver responds quickly. People often see improvements in just weeks with measurable changes in liver enzymes, cholesterol, and blood sugar within months. Fatty liver isn't just a side effect of modern living, it's a central driver of the metabolic crisis. By addressing it directly, you're not only protecting your liver, you're repairing the engine that controls blood sugar, cholesterol, and fat burning. And once that engine runs smoothly, your whole body starts to feel the difference: lighter, sharper, stronger. Have you ever checked your liver health? Did your doctor mention fatty liver or elevated enzymes? Share in the comments. Your experience could encourage someone else to take action. Your arteries are like highways, carrying nutrients and oxygen-rich blood to every cell in your body. When they're clear and flexible, blood flows smoothly, fueling your brain, muscles, and heart with ease. But when insulin resistance takes hold and fat begins building up in the liver, a hidden storm brews inside these blood vessels. The sugar spikes, the excess insulin, and the inflammatory signals from a fatty liver combine to inflame the artery walls. Over time, this irritation lays the groundwork for plaque, the dangerous buildup that narrows arteries and can eventually trigger heart attacks or strokes. Here's how it happens. A high blood sugar damages the delicate lining of the arteries, called the endothelium. Think of it as scratching the inside of your blood vessels with sandpaper, over and over. Each spike leaves tiny marks, making it easier for cholesterol and fat to stick. At the same time, a fatty liver pumps out triglycerides, which circulate in the blood like excess debris. Insulin resistance pushes cholesterol particles into a harmful pattern, small, dense LDL particles that slip into the artery walls more easily than larger ones. Add chronic inflammation to the mix, and the arteries respond by trying to patch up the damage with plaque, What starts as a protective measure soon becomes a ticking time bomb. Plaque buildup doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, silent process that begins years before symptoms appear. You might feel perfectly fine while these changes are happening beneath the surface, but gradually arteries stiffen, blood pressure rises, and circulation weakens. That's why metabolic syndrome, the combination of high blood sugar, insulin resistance, fatty liver, and abnormal cholesterol, is one of the strongest predictors of coronary artery disease. The connection is so strong that some researchers now call insulin resistance the true root cause of heart disease, not cholesterol alone. The role of insulin in this process is often overlooked. When insulin levels are chronically high, it does more than store fat. It also thickens the walls of blood vessels and stimulates the growth of smooth muscle cells inside arteries, narrowing the passageways. High insulin promotes sodium retention, raising blood pressure and worsens systemic inflammation. So even if your cholesterol doesn't look alarming on a blood test, persistently high insulin is silently fueling artery stress, making every heartbeat work harder. This is where fasting becomes a powerful repair tool. When you extend the time between meals, insulin levels finally drop. That drop gives your blood vessels a chance to rest. In this lower insulin state, arteries can dilate more easily, blood pressure eases, and inflammation calms down. At the same time, your body begins burning stored fat for fuel, reducing the triglyceride load that contributes to plaque formation. Over weeks and months of consistent fasting windows, the entire cardiovascular system becomes less stressed and more efficient and more resilient. Low-carb eating plays a similar role. By cutting back on refined sugars and processed carbs, you reduce the constant demand for insulin. With fewer sugar spikes, the endothelium is spared from repeated scratches and plaque buildup slows. Pair that with fiber-rich foods which bind to cholesterol and help remove it from the body, and you create a protective shield for your arteries. It's not about avoiding fat altogether, it's about avoiding the sugar-driven processes that distort fat metabolism in the first place. Consider the difference between two people who both consume the same number of calories. One eats mostly refined carbs and sugary snacks, while the other focuses on balanced meals with protein, vegetables, and healthy fats. The first person experiences repeated blood sugar surges, high insulin, and fat spilling into the bloodstream, setting the stage for artery inflammation. The second person has steady blood sugar, lower insulin, and less stress on the vascular system. The outcome decades later is vastly different. One at high risk of coronary artery disease, the other protected. What makes this so important is that coronary artery disease remains the leading cause of death worldwide. Yet the underlying process isn't mysterious. It's metabolic dysfunction played out in blood vessels over time. By addressing blood sugar control and insulin resistance early, you don't just lower your risk of diabetes, you dramatically reduce your chances of developing heart disease. It's a form of prevention that doesn't rely on waiting until symptoms appear, but on making choices today that shape your long-term health. The transformation doesn't require perfection. Even small steps like shortening your eating window, replacing sugary drinks with water or tea, and adding more vegetables to your plate begin to shift your insulin curve. With each improvement, inflammation decreases, cholesterol balance improves, and your arteries stay more flexible. Over time, those small changes accumulate into a powerful defense against plaque and heart disease. Think of your arteries as rivers. In a healthy body, the river flows clear and strong, nourishing everything downstream. But when sugar and insulin run high, debris builds up, narrowing the channel. Eventually, the flow slows and blockages form. The solution isn't to wait for a complete dam to appear, it's to keep the river clear every day with habits that reduce the debris. Fasting, nutrient-dense eating, and insulin balance keep the current moving freely, protecting your heart and brain for decades to come. Does heart disease run in your family? Have you ever thought about how blood sugar might be connected to artery health? Let's talk about prevention in the comments. Your insights could make a difference for someone else. When you sit down to eat, the order in which you choose your foods matters more than most people realize. Starting with protein, vegetables, or healthy fats before touching your carbs can make the difference between a sharp glucose spike and a gentle curve. It works like this: protein and fiber slow digestion, so when carbs arrive later, the sugar from those foods trickles into your bloodstream instead of flooding it. That simple shift lowers the glycemic impact of your meal and reduces the insulin surge that drives fat storage and cravings. Imagine two identical plates of food. Eat the bread first, and you'll likely feel a crash an hour later. Eat the chicken and salad first, and the bread hits differently with less roller coaster effect. Another hack that's easy to add is vinegar. A tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in water before a meal, or even sprinkled over a salad, helps slow the breakdown of carbohydrates into glucose. It acts almost like a natural buffer, softening the sugar spike that would otherwise follow. Small changes like this don't require removing your favorite foods, they reshape how your body processes them. Pair that with what's often called a fiber shield, getting leafy greens, legumes, or even chia seeds into a meal before starches or sweets. Fiber forms a gel-like barrier in your digestive system, delaying how quickly glucose enters your blood and keeping insulin steady. Timing is another lever you can use. Eating late at night, when your circadian rhythm has shifted your metabolism into rest mode, is like asking your body to store instead of burn. Having your last meal earlier in the evening aligns with your natural insulin sensitivity, giving your system hours to process fuel before sleep. Even spacing meals with breaks instead of grazing all day allows insulin levels to fall between eating episodes, a subtle form of fasting that enhances fat burning and metabolic repair. These strategies are powerful because they don't force deprivation. You don't need to cut out carbs completely or adopt a restrictive diet to regain blood sugar control. Instead, use stack small hacks, protein before carbs, vinegar, fiber shields, earlier dinners, until they become habits. Over time, those habits flatten glucose spikes, ease cravings, and give you more consistent energy. That stability protects your liver, reduces inflammation in your arteries, and lessens the strain on your pancreas, which is constantly working to pump out insulin. What makes this approach sustainable is that it fits into real life. You can enjoy family meals, cultural foods, and even occasional indulgences without the fear of undoing progress. By learning how food order, timing, and these simple tricks influence your metabolic health, you take control without feeling controlled by a diet. Over weeks and months, that balance builds resilience, helping your body stay in a state of repair rather than breakdown. Which of these hacks will you try first? Intermittent fasting has become one of the most talked about approaches to health in recent years, but at its core, it's simply a return to the way the human body was designed to function. For thousands of years, people lived in cycles of eating and fasting. Feast and famine were natural rhythms of life. Our modern world, with constant access to snacks, refined carbohydrates, and sugary drinks, has broken this rhythm. Now, most people eat from the moment they wake up until just before bed, never giving insulin a chance to fall. This constant eating environment traps the body in storage mode, leading to rising blood sugar, insulin resistance, and eventually metabolic dysfunction. Fasting isn't about punishment or restriction. It's about restoring the natural repair cycles that modern life has interrupted. When you take a break from food for 12, 14, or 16 hours, something remarkable happens inside your body. Insulin levels begin to drop, and with that drop comes a signal: stop storing, start repairing. The liver, which has been overloaded with sugar and fat from processed foods, begins clearing out excess fat. This process, sometimes called emptying the liver, improves insulin sensitivity, meaning the same amount of insulin works more effectively to move glucose into cells. The gut lining also benefits. When you're not eating, the digestive tract takes a rest, giving the gut barrier a chance to repair itself. This reduces inflammation and strengthens the microbiome, the colony of bacteria that plays a critical role in how we process sugar, store fat, and regulate energy. With consistent fasting, blood sugar stabilizes, cravings diminish, and the cycle of fatigue that so many people experience after meals begins to fade. But fasting doesn't work in isolation. To get the full benefit, it needs to be paired with the other pillars of metabolic health: stress management, quality sleep, and movement. Stress, for example, can undo the benefits of fasting in a subtle but powerful way. When cortisol, the primary stress hormone, rises, it tells your liver to release glucose into the bloodstream. This is an ancient survival mechanism designed to give you quick energy to fight or flee. But in the modern world, most stress is mental, not physical. Deadlines, arguments, or constant notifications keep cortisol levels high, raising blood sugar even when you haven't eaten. That's why pairing fasting with stress reduction, breathing exercises, meditation, journaling, or even spending time outdoors multiplies the benefits. Your body gets the full signal to repair instead of being tricked into thinking it's still under attack. Sleep is another overlooked factor. When you don't sleep enough, or your sleep is poor quality, your cells become resistant to insulin the very next day. That means the glucose from your meals lingers in your blood longer, forcing your pancreas to pump out more insulin. Over time, this accelerates the path toward insulin resistance and metabolic disease. By contrast, a solid night's sleep restores insulin sensitivity, balances hunger hormones, and improves the effectiveness of fasting windows. Many people find that when they combine earlier dinners with fasting, their sleep improves naturally. Less indigestion, steadier blood sugar through the night, and more restorative deep sleep cycles. Movement ties the reset together. Exercise doesn't have to be extreme to make a big difference. When you move your body, your muscles act like sponges for glucose, soaking it up from the bloodstream without the need for insulin. This effect lowers blood sugar after meals and reduces the burden on the pancreas. Even a 10-15-minute walk after eating can dramatically improve glucose handling. Add in resistance training or strength work, and your muscles become even more efficient at burning glucose, offering long-term protection against insulin resistance. Movement also lowers stress, improves sleep, and keeps your cardiovascular system healthy, making it the perfect complement to fasting. What's important to understand is that fasting and these lifestyle habits aren't quick fixes. They are a reset button, an opportunity to shift the body back into balance. Many diets fail because they focus on restriction, telling people what they can't eat. Fasting flips the script. It's not about what you can't have, it's about when you choose to eat and how you support your body in between. Pair that with simple, sustainable habits like reducing processed carbs, prioritizing whole foods, eating protein and fiber first, managing stress, sleeping deeply, and moving daily, and you create a metabolic environment where healing happens naturally. The beauty of this approach is that it's adaptable. Someone just starting might begin with 12 hours of fasting, finishing dinner at 7 p.m. and having breakfast at 7 a.m. As the body adapts, that window can be gently extended to 14 or 16 hours. There's no need for extremes and there's no rush. The body thrives on consistency, not punishment. Over time, fasting becomes second nature, a rhythm that feels natural, not forced. The reward is more energy, clearer thinking, stable moods, easier weight management, and protection against chronic diseases like fatty liver, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease. Healing is not instant, but it is possible. Every time you choose to give your body a break from constant eating, every time you manage stress instead of letting it control you, every night you prioritize sleep, and every step you take after a meal, you're building resilience. The cumulative effect of these choices is powerful. You're not just preventing disease, you're reversing damage that may have been building quietly for years. Healing is possible, and it starts with the next meal. Have you tried fasting with gut-friendly foods? Share your results below.